So, ever since I got into MMA, I've always enjoyed watching fighters that have a style centered around boxing, from the great ones like Ben Askren to the more mediocre ones like Dustin Poirier. And in this video, I've decided to list the best boxers in every single weight class in the UFC. And basically, I'm gonna start off with flyweight, then work my way up to the heavyweight bobs. And at flyweight, even though he just got knocked out, I have Steve Erceg, bedtime MMA himself. And I know the guy just got knocked out, but he still has some very crisp boxing, and he was landing some pretty good shots on Kai before he got knocked out. Now, Erceg's whole style is basically centered around his boxing. He has some very good technique and fundamentals, combined with nasty speed and precision. He's also pretty tall for the division, and I think he uses his height pretty well by using a lot of straight shots like his jab and his cross. He also likes to stay at long range, right outside the void, as Demetrious Johnson would say, and wait for his opponents to get into his range so he can throw one of his nasty counters. As I mentioned earlier, he also has very good precision, which of course is going to amplify the damage from his counters. And yeah, I don't really think there's anyone else in the division that has the same level of boxing that Erceg has. So I think I'm just gonna go ahead and jump straight into bantamweight. And bantamweight is a lot trickier in my opinion, because bantamweight has some really good strikers overall. Definitely the best division right now, and the three fighters that come to mind for me is Yan, Song Yadong, and O'Malley. And right away I'm gonna exclude Song Yadong. Now don't get me wrong, he doesn't get the respect he deserves. He's definitely one of the best boxers in bantamweight. Great power and nice technique. But he just lost to Peter Yan, although the fight was pretty close. But he also had a very grappling heavy approach in that fight and still got boxed up by Yan. So it's really gonna come down to Yan and O'Malley. And they have fought before, but the tricky part is that a lot of people thought Yan got robbed in that fight, including me. But the reason I thought Yan won is because even though he got outlanded, I still thought that when he did land, it was a lot more significant, and that the damage he caused on the ground should have won him that fight. But you also have to take into consideration that Yan had a very takedown heavy approach in that fight, and he also used a lot of kicks, whereas O'Malley took more of a boxing approach, and I have to say that O'Malley was pretty clearly outlanding Yan in the boxing department. But then again, Yan is a 5-round fighter who likes to download data, so is it really fair to use a 3-round fight for reference? Do you guys see what I meant when I said bantamweight was complicated? I would slightly lean towards O'Malley here, but I'm curious to know what you guys think about this one, so please comment who you think is the best boxer in bantamweight. Now at featherweight, it's between Topuria and Holloway, but in my opinion, it's clearly Topuria. Don't get me wrong, Holloway is a very skilled boxer, but he got outboxed by Volk, and Volk got outboxed and slept by Topuria in the second round. And I also want to empathize on the fact that Topuria's style is also way more centered around just boxing. I mean, the guy barely throws any kicks, like it's very rare to see him throw even a leg kick. Meanwhile, Holloway is more of a kickboxer overall. Yes, his boxing is phenomenal, as he showed against Calvin Kattar and also recently against Justin Gaethje, but he still has quite the kicking heavy approach, or at least more than Topuria has. But anyways, Topuria actually started off with grappling, which is very surprising because in the UFC he's for the most part giving people the hands. And he has some serious power in those hands. If he connects, he's causing some major damage. He's also very calculated and very good at making reads, which I think separates the good strikers from the best strikers. And he's also very defensively sound, which showed in his fight against Emmett, where Emmett was swinging some big meaty hooks. R.I.P. Lucas Tracy. And Topuria was basically avoiding everything, and he was just sticking to Emmett with his jab. But at lightweight, it's Holloway's time to shine, okay? Holloway was lighting up Gaethje in his last fight, which is crazy because we're talking about the Gaethje that clutched up against Fiziev, and the same Gaethje that head kicked Poirier. Speaking of Poirier, he is a contender for the best boxer in lightweight, but in my opinion, I just can't give it to him after that performance from Holloway. The way Holloway knocked out Gaethje was one of the coolest main character moments in recent UFC history. Now, even though Holloway flatlined Gaethje, he's definitely more of a volume striker. He uses a lot of longer combinations and relies a lot on his cardio. He also has good hand speed combined with good precision. Now, I know Holloway lost to Poirier at lightweight, but there was one major difference in that fight. The fighter who fought Poirier was Max Holloway. The fighter who fought Gaethje was Jerome Holloway. Big difference. Anyways, at welterweight, I of course have the GOAT, Belal Muhammad, and this guy's boxing is at a similar level to Canelo's, okay? I don't think there's really anyone at welterweight who is able to compete with him in any realm, but certainly not in the realm of boxing. Nah, I'm joking, guys. At welterweight, it's obviously gonna be Jack Della Maddalena. I don't really think you can argue anyone else. JDM has some really good boxing fundamentals, and he's also really good at putting together combinations. He can also fight from both stances, which is very nice to see from a striker. And overall, I just think that JDM is one of the best examples of an MMA fighter with a boxing base. He also makes very good use of his boxing, and I can't wait to see him back in the octagon, hopefully against Shavkat. Now at middleweight, I'm obviously gonna have Sean Strickland. I think the only other one you could argue is really Whittaker, but in terms of pure boxing, I don't think he is as good as Strickland. Like a big part of Whittaker's game is his kicks, while Strickland's striking is just basically only based on boxing, except for the occasional teep. And Whittaker also lost to the guy that Strickland dog-walked. Now Strickland probably has the best defense in UFC right now. The guy is very good at blocking and parrying punches. He also utilizes his Philly shell, which is very rare to see in MMA, and it's really cool to see him make it work in MMA too. Now offensively, he keeps it pretty simple, utilizing his long arms by throwing a lot of straight punches. His jab is especially good. DDP's face was proof of that. That was from cumulative damage from jabbing him so much. Because Strickland isn't really much of a power puncher, but anyways, I really hope we get to see the rematch between him and DDP, because the first fight was a banger and it was so close, so they just have to run it back in my opinion. But moving on to light heavyweight, and here I obviously have Alex Pereira. I hope no one tries to argue about this one in the comments, because it's clear as day to me. The only other contender in my opinion was Jamal Hill, who actually has some very crisp hands, but he got slept by Pereira in the first round, so I can't really say it's anyone else. Anyways, many people don't know this, but I think Alex Pereira actually started off with boxing, and I actually think he had some amateur fights before he moved on to kickboxing, and he actually started training kickboxing fairly late, at the age of 21. So his boxing background certainly showed in his kickboxing. One of his opponents, I think it was Jason Wilness, even said that Pereira was just a boxer doing kickboxing, which of course is incorrect, because Pereira is literally one of the best kickboxers of all time, but at the time, Pereira wasn't double glory champ, and it was just some basic trash talk to promote the fight. Now Pereira's boxing is basically all offense. Offensively, he's a beast. His power is crazy, especially in his left hook. But Pereira isn't just a big dumb guy who punches hard. He's also very calculated and good at setting up powerful punches like his left hook, which I think is a very underrated part of his game. And defensively, he isn't the best. He gets tagged a decent amount, but he's very good at rolling with punches, which takes away a lot of the power. And he has a good chin, especially at light heavyweight, so it isn't really a huge deal for him. I also want to reference the fact that there is a bunch of footage of him sparring with some really solid boxers and performing very well. I even think Pereira sometimes trains with that Chinese dude who knocked out Deontay Wilder and helps him prepare for his boxing fights. Now we've finally come to the division of the Blobs, and the best boxer in this division is obviously gonna be Tom Aspinall, the real heavyweight champion. Do I even need to explain this one? Aspinall's been lighting up every guy he's fought in the UFC. His last 3 fights were all finishes in the first round. This guy is different, man. I see why Jones is ducking him. For a heavyweight, Aspinall moves extremely fast, very bouncy and fast on the feet, which is very rare to see at heavyweight, because most heavyweights are overweight and slow, and his hand speed is also very impressive for a heavyweight. He can string together some really fast combinations, and he also has very good power. He's literally finishing the best heavyweights on the planet in the first round, like Pavlovich and Blades. And Pavlovich was an absolute terminator at the time. And I honestly think that Aspinall has potential to become one of the best heavyweights of all time, considering how he's smoking these top 10 guys. So Jones better pray Stipe doesn't pull out, because otherwise he's in for some real smoke. But I think that's it for today, guys. Check out my last video where I ranked champions from worst to best. Anyways, thanks for watching. Subscribe if you enjoyed the video, leave a like, share this video to friends and family, and leave your thoughts in the comments. And I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye.